Good evening to one and all. Welcome you all to the Daily Indian Express newspaper analysis for the date 31st October 2023, brought to you by Ganesh IAS Academy. Okay, let's get into the today's newspaper analysis. So mentioned in this board are the list of articles which we are going to have the analysis in the upcoming slides. So have a look at it. Okay, let's get into the analysis part of each and every topic. The first news is the household debt challenge. So, since the news is related to the rising debt of the households in India, it is linked with the UPSC through a syllabus called Economic and Social Development for Prelims through Mains. It is linked with GS Paper 3 Economic and Development under Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, development and employment. Okay. See, according to the data released by the RBI, the household debt has surged to nearly 5.8% of GDP. And it was second highest since the independence, and the first highest is the 6.7% during 2007. And most of the economists are debating in relation to the what are all the causes of the surging household debts. But this news articles has explained the household debts in terms of the sustainability as well as the threshold. So, what is the sustainability of the increasing household debt and what threshold until which the economy could be able to bear such a rise in the household debt? Such analysis have been made through this article. So, the sustainability in terms of the household debt could be measured through a concept called debt service ratio. This debt service ratio is nothing but the proportion of income used to repay the debt or the loan which we have bought from the financial institutions, and it is calculated through a formula called interest payment by income. If the ratio is lower means then the debt is then the debt service ratio is in healthy mode, that is the individual could be able to repay the interest as well as the principal within the given period of time. If it is higher means then it is unsustainable. There is a chance that the individual or the organization could default the loan or the debt which they have obtained from the financial institutions. The three parameters that is required to calculate the debt service ratio across India is the debt to income ratio, the maturity of the tenure of the loan, thirdly the effective interest rate that is prevailing across India. So through these three indicators we could able to calculate the debt service ratio of entire country. So let us take the 2023, where we could able to see that the debt to income ratio has jumped to 48.1% from 42% pre-pandemic, and then the effective interest rate, average effective interest rate that is prevailing across the economy is 10%, and the maturity is calculated by the averaging out the duration of the credit that is obtained by individual or organization from the financial institution is 5.3, not percentage, it is year, 5.3 years. So what they are calculating is that right now the India's debt service ratio, that the Indian households debt service ratio is 12%. So whether this 12% is sustainable or not, we will look in the upcoming slides. And right now this 12% is way higher than the other developed countries like US, UK and developing countries like China. In that, out of the total debt exposure by the household, nearly 90% of the debt is being exposed through the banks, and the remaining 10% only is exposed through the non-banking financial companies as well as other housing financing companies. Despite the highest level of 12%, that is the debt service ratio, when compared to the developed as well as some major developing countries like China, we could able to see that when we are comparing this this thing with the previous past decade, there has been consistently consistent positives we could able to see that. How is that? Is the higher interest rate has reduced considerably, and then the short debt tenure has now increased to 5.3%. Previously it was 4.6% before a decade, and it is raised to 5.3%, but still it is not convenient for us to have the debt service ratio of 12%. We should be below that 12%, means we should have the higher loan tenure ratio. So this is why the article is saying is that compared to the past decade, even though in the DSR we are weaker when compared to the other developed countries, but when we are comparing ourselves with the past decade, we have improved in terms of these indicators. So right now this 12% according to the author is sustained only, but what is the threshold and up to which this also exposure could be sustained is what he is saying is that the 15% of DSL, if the country is having the 15% of debt service ratio, means then the debt burden will be increasing to 60%, and this percentage will be reached within 5 to 6 years, and it will make the Indian economy more unsustainable, and this is what the threshold level which the author is predicting, that is the 50% and the related household debt of 60%. So if we are not going to act now, means then after 5 to 6 years, because of the rising debt burden, then there will be some immediate action will be taken by the government, which in turn will hinder the fast moving economic growth. So what author is suggesting that we should act now by increasing the maturity period, that is the loan tenure period. If the loan tenure period has been increased, means then the debt servicing ratio will get reduced automatically, because each and whenever the tenure is increasing, means the number of the periodic interest or the periodic principals paid by the individuals will be reduced in terms of value, because of the longer segregated monthly installment he could able to pay. Secondly, there need to be reduction in the interest rate, so that it will also increase the servicing capability of the individual or the organization, which in turn will reduce the DSR well below than 12%, and it will make our country to be sustainable with the other developed and then major developing countries like China. What is the reason for rising in the household debt being quoted by major economists is that there is rise in the non-housing loans, which is mostly contributed by the majority of middle income class group, that is right now bulging in the Indian economy. And then what impact it may create in the future is that if we are not acting now, and if we are going to act after 5 to 6 years, when the debt burden is going to reach 60% and the DSR is going to reach 15%, means it will be hindering the fast moving economic growth, because of the immediate action that the government will take during that point of time, like in the case of changing the policies, changing the schemes, changing the programs that is being made to increase the growth of the economy. So this is what the analysis in relation to the increased debt burden of the household in Indian economy. So what need to be studied further is, so we should know about what is bank, what is NBFC, that is non-banking financial companies, and what is the difference between both of them. Similarly, we should also know about what is RBI and what is the objective it holds and what is the structure it has. And then we should also know about what is financial as well as non-financial debt and the difference between two of them. So these are all the other aspects which we need to be aware of. "70 hours to burnout." As we all know, the Infosys head Narayanamurthy in his recent interview has said that the youngsters need to work 70 hours per week, and this article is related to the what is the negative outcome if the workforce is going to work for 70%, 70 hours per week. So this article is related to it. First, we will look into how the news is related to UPSC exam. Since the news is related with labor productivity and then economic growth, it is linked with UPSC in prelims through a topic called economic as well as social development. Under mains, GS paper 3 through a topic called Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resource, growth, development and employment. See, the nation building requires hard work, dedication as well as consistency, which could be provided by the India's growing youth population. And this, apart from it, there are several labor problems which need to be taken care, like in the case of low income, increased stress and poor work-life balance. So these are all the negative lacunae or labor faces in the working field, which is quoted by the author of this article. And according to the Indian Labour Organization, the only international labor organization has recently released a report named Working Time and Work-Life Balance Around the World, which says that the South as well as Southeast Asian countries professionals work at higher level, like 49 as well as 48.8 per week respectively. Whereas in the case of other countries, like in the case of countries that is present in North American continent and then countries that is present in Western Europe, are working lesser than the South Asian as well as Southeast Asian people per week. So what this development metrics, even though already the South as well as Southeast Asian employees are working more than the developed countries like West Europe countries as well as North American country, still we are in underdeveloping or developing countries status only. So what is the reason the author is quoting is that in India the developing matrices, that is the productivity, is calculated on the number of hours the employee stays in an organization rather than how efficiently the employee performs a work. So this is how the productivity is being calculated in India. This perspective need to be changed. Rather than quantitatively measuring the number of hours being worked, the number of hours being present by the employee in an organization, there need to be matrices of how efficiently the employee does a job. This need to be inculcated into the labor's productivity matrices. And then there need to be increased requirement of work-life balances. For example, if this 70 hours per week is going to be implemented, means there will be increased requirement for work by the youth professionals, but which in turn will tilt the labor force against the women, because most of the women suffers because of the problems of dual responsibility, like doing the household chores as also doing the organization's work. So which in turn will be leading to fatigue, anxiety and other health related issues to the women's, most importantly the married women's. And then what the author is suggesting is that if the potential of the individuals need to be harnessed means, then it has to be harnessed in a way of balanced as well as equitable. That is, each and every individual or a group of people who belong to same categories, like in the case of men and women, need to be measured using different equitable matrices, so that their efficiency and productivity could be equitably harnessed, which in turn will be leading to overall productivity of the labor and the economic growth. So this is what the author is finally suggesting in terms of the 70 hours per week, the work requirement made by the Narayanamurthy. So what is the other causes for the low labor productivity is, apart from quantitatively working in an organization, there are still certain lacunae that is present in the employees which need to be addressed, so that the labor productivity will get increased. First and foremost is the lack of skill. Because of the evolution of technology and fast speedy changing of technologies, there is a need that every professionals or the individuals need to get adapted with the technology as fast as he or she can. So that skilling, upgradation, and then reskilling is required frequently, which makes most of the people to get less skilled because of the lack of ability, because of lack of their ability and lack of the organizational ability to provide them with skill training. Secondly, lack of adaptation of technology. Well equipped technology in the organization will also reduces the productivity of the labor when compared to the other organization which has efficient technologies. Thirdly, lacunae in the management practices, like in the case of not providing a employer friendly environment will also make the employees productivity to reduce. Fourthly, not making the employee to feel that the organization belongs to him. A lack of sense of belonging within an employee because of the lacunae in the management practice will also hinder the employment productivity. And then disguised employment that is already present in the agriculture will also reduce the India's labor force productivity. This disguised employment need to get reduced, so that the labor productivity will also get increased if it is going to reduce. So how to increase the labor productivity is, there need to be equitable environment across the organization because of efficient management practices, as well as the other thing which enable the employee to learn as well as grow. Then adaptation of technology, and then frequent skilling, reskilling and upskilling of the employees need to take place. For that, the opportunities as well as environment should also be created, and there need to be good employee-employer relationship, which will be leading to this kind of positive things in the organization. So these are all the other things, these are all the causes and way to increase the labor productivity in the organization. What need to be studied further is, we should know about what is the periodic labor force survey and which organization releases it, and what are all the indicators been calculated on the periodic labor force surveys. We should be aware of it. Secondly, we should know about the schemes for the skill development. Thirdly, we should also know about the women labor's welfare schemes, which is being implemented by central government. So these are all the other areas which we need to be aware. To clear the air. So the news is related to environment. So how the news is related to UPSC exam is, in prelims through a topic called general issues on environmental ecology, and under mains through a topic called conservation, environmental pollution, degradation, which comes under GS paper 3 environment. Okay, the air quality index Air quality life index, a report was recently published by Michael Greenstone from Energy Policy Institute, which is present in Chicago. What it has said is that Indians are losing nearly 5.3% of life expectancy on an average because of increased air pollution. Among the Indian state, Delhi tops where the people in Delhi are losing nearly 11 years of their life expectancy, which is higher when compared to the other states in India, because Delhi is one of the most polluted states, most polluted city across the globe, along with Lahore, Beijing, etc. And the pollutant which is monitored by air quality index in India is particulate matter 2.5, particulate matter 10, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, ozone, ammonia as well as lead. So these 8 pollutants are being monitored under an index called air quality index. In that, the ranking of the severity is also given. But there are other pollutants which will cause a negative implication for the human well-being. First is the benzene as well as the formaldehyde, which is released from the wildfires, that is the natural source of pollution, which has potential to degrade the human well-being by causing them with cancer and other related issues. And then cadmium, which is also a kind of pollution which comes out from the smoking. And then the ultra fine particulates like the particulate matter, which is less than 0.1 micron, is also, it has the capability to enter into every nook and corner of a body inside. So these are all the other pollutants which has the potential to create negative implication for the well-being of the human being, which is not considered under the pollutant monitored under air quality index. So what is the other challenges? This is the one challenges in terms of reducing the air pollution, but the other challenge is the national air quality standards are less severe when compared to World Health Organization, where World Health Organization has prescribed particulate 5 microns for the particulate matter 2.5, but the air quality index of India has prescribed 40 microns, the prescribed limit of 40 microns for particulate matter 2.5. And because of the landlocked nature of the northern plain, and the state belonging to this northern plain is also experiencing a drastic rise in the air pollution, and it gets it gets increased during the winter times because of the stagnation of the air. So what is the causes? The author is saying is that first and foremost, apart from the point sources as well as the non-point sources which we all be aware of, there are other sources like line sources, which is like in the case of the pollution that is arising out of the vehicle, and then the point sources, the power plant as well as the factories, and then the area sources, the garbage dump sites, and then the sewages, and then the natural sources, and then the natural sources like forest fires and as well as volcanic eruptions. So these are all the other causes for, apart from the points and non-point sources, and then outdoor as well as indoor kind of sources. These are all the other source causes which is mentioned by the author. And what harms the air pollution, the rising deterioration in the air pollution creates to the human well-being is, it first and foremost, it will increase the blood pressure, that is the hypertension. Secondly, cardiovascular disease, cerebrovascular disease, peripheral vascular diseases will also get increased. Thirdly, it will lead to rise in the cancer cases. because of increased inhaling of the air pollutants, and then lung disease, asthma, and then particulate matters. Right now in most of the cases it is found in fetal brains also, and then mother's placenta. And then during pregnancy it may lead to neonatal death as well as stillbirth of the child. So these kind of negative implications the deterioration in air quality has. So what need to do personally, we as an individual, what we need to do is, first and foremost, if we could able to buy air purifier, means we could able to buy it and we could be able to use in the closed environment where we are living. Secondly, using of mask, like in the case of N95, which is highly qualitative, which will reduce the inhaling of the pollutants, and then reduce the outdoor activities during smoggy conditions. These are all the precautionary measures which need to be taken at the individual level. So what are the measures need to be taken at the policy level is, first and foremost is that there need to be drastic transmission to the electric vehicles, like in the so that the clean transport in terms of our mobility will get ensured. Secondly, the better public transport connectivity need to be given to the last mile of the person, so that it will encourage them to use the public transport rather than the individual private vehicles. And then the sources of renewable energies need to be increased, and then there need to be cessation of stubble as well as garbage burning, and then the garbage disposal efficiency will should also get increased. Not only garbage disposal efficiency, the sewage treatment efficiency should also get increased in the urban area, most importantly. And then emission source need to be apportioned, and then the pollution exposure assessment should be made periodically, so that the corrective measures could be taken in very shortly, until not waiting until the other reports, not waiting until the reports which now takes nearly a year or 6 months to come, so that the government could act. So if they could able to measure the population exposure periodically, we could that is like in the case of monitoring every the assessments that need to be made every twice a day or once in a week, then the corrective measures could be able to made. So these are all the measures that need to be taken at policy level. So what need to be studied further is, we should know about what is the WHO's air quality standards. Secondly, we should also know about what is the structure, functions, and the objectives of Environmental Act 1986. And then we should also know about the Air Act as well as Water Acts. So these are all the other areas which we need to be aware of. Nepal mountain lose one-third of their ice in lost their one-third of their part because of the melting that is happening in the Nepal. What is the potential impact it has? So let's have a look in, we will analyze in the upcoming slides. So how the news is related to UPSC exam is, under prelims it is related to general issues on environmental ecology, and under mains it is linked with conservation, environmental pollution, degradation, and environmental impact assessment, GS paper 3 environment. So what the news has said is that nearly one-third of the ice that is present in Nepal mountain has been lost in the past 30 years because of increased temperature of 0.7 degrees Celsius in the last 100 years. And then the warming across South Asian Himalayas is right now greater than the global average, which is very important from the perspective of prelims. What impact that does it creates to the people as well as economy and then the livelihood of the people those who are dependent on them is, first and foremost, it will increase the loss of lakes that is created in the glacier areas. Secondly, it will lead to loss of communities whose livelihood dependent on the healthy ice that is present in mountainous areas. Thirdly, increased melting of the ice will lead to rise of sea level. So these are all the impact the melting of ice in the Nepal mountain is having and will have, and its severity will get increased in the near future. So what is the concern apart from the impact the Nepal is having is that right now Hindu Kush Himalaya could lose nearly 75% of its volume by the century's end. It will increase the flooding as well as increase the water shortage, because the glacier acts as the potential water source for the majority of the people who are present or living in those regions, and the loss of those glaciers will lead to severe water shortage to 240 million people approximately. So this is what the impact and then the concern and then the details of the news is about. Then how the news is, what need to be studied further is, we should know about what is United Nations Framework for Convention on Climate Change, what is the Paris Deal and what target it has fixed and what is the position right now. And then Panchmrit, the target which was the commitment which was given by India at the global level to reduce the carbon footprints and also march ourselves towards the climate mitigation activities. So what are all the commitments being given by India need to be studied, and then India's schemes and programs on climate change mitigation efforts. These are all the other things which we need to be aware of. Prisoner's dilemma. So the news is linked with the recent, as we all know, the Qatar's court has ordered the death sentence for 8 ex-Navy, Indian ex-Navy personnels, those who are living in the Qatar in the case of espionage, in the spy cases. So under prelims, it is linked with current events of national as well as international importance. Similarly, under mains, it is linked with India and its neighborhood relationship. So under this only, a topic called prisoner dilemma, which is recently quoted by our defense minister, also been explained in this article. So what is this prisoner dilemma is about? So it is nothing but one of the most popular game in the game theory. Game theory is nothing but a branch of science that helps to understand the people or entities behavior under different circumstances. For instance, it may appear straightforward that a person or a country or a country will always do what they could able to gain a better from the work they are doing. But in the real life, the outcome does not only depend on the activity, but also the involvement of other stakeholders in the activities also. Like in the case of what our defense minister has said is that, like in the case of if we want to secure our border means, then we need to equip ourselves with more number of arms, because the neighboring countries will also be equipping themselves with more number of arms in order to secure their borders. In that, the outcome will be the arms race. So the arms race was not intended by both of the countries, but their activities which dependent on the other countries' activities led to arms race. So where we could able to see that the outcome of one country is not in the hands of that country also, but it is in the hands of the other stakeholders, like in the case of this example, the other countries also. So like for example, so what need to be done is that here we could able to see that one example has been quoted. In that, if the two people have been arrested by the police officers, means police officer for the crime which they have done, but the police are know the circumstances of the crime only, but they don't know who is actually involved in this crime, whether these two person are each whether these two person are involved or any of one of them are involved or not, both of them are involved. So they have catched them and they have so in order to get the information from them, they have police have made them to 1 minute, there is some glitch here. Okay, the police have put them into the jail separately. So and they have been asking both the individuals separately who did the crime. If A is suggesting that the B is involved in the crime, means then the A will be setting free. He will be set out free. Similarly, if E will be set out free and B will be given 15 years of jail term. Similarly, vice versa. If B is saying that A is involved, means then B will be set out free and A will be given 15 years term. And if both of them are going to keep quiet, means they will be given only 1 year of jail term only. Or if both of them are going to say, if B is going to say A has committed a crime and A is going to say B has committed a crime simultaneously, means then both of them will be given 10 years of sentence. So in this the best outcome will be the lowest years of jail term. The lowest years of jail term is 1 year, which arises from a scenario where both of them needed to keep quiet. Both of them they should not say about each other. That is, B should not say about A's crime, and A should not say about B's crime. How this will happen? Because both of them are living in separate. They have been put in the separate jail. So in this scenario, the A's jail term or the B's jail term does not depend on their hands or the thing which they are going to say. The A's jail term is going to depend on B, B's jail term is going to dependent on A. So the outcome of one person is going to dependent on the involvement of the other stakeholder, that is B, like in the case of vice versa. So what need to be done between A and B is that they should coordinate, cooperate all the time, and they need to understand each other, so that A should know what B will be telling, B should know what A will be telling. They should be in a situation where they could able to predict each other's behavior, so they could able to act appropriately. Same is the case for the world countries also. The bilateral relationship between the countries need to be in tune. Where cooperation and coordination is very essential for healthy well-being of both the countries which is involved. So this is what the prisoner dilemma is, and this is what the minister has said in a meeting. So what are the other things which we need to be studied is, we should know about the India-Qatar's relationship and Middle East geography. So these are all the other areas which we need to be aware of. 10 years of China's Belt and Road Initiative, taking stock of Xi's transformational infra project. So the news is linked with Belt and Road Initiative, the massive infrastructure initiative of China, which is linked with civil service examination through prelims under a topic called current events of national and international importance, and underlines India and its neighborhood relationship. So what is the idea behind the Belt and Road Initiative and how it evolved over the years is that, first and foremost, the idea of Belt and Road Initiative was initially proposed during 2013. In that, the belt is a series of trading as well as infra route that is going to connect the Asia and Europe through the South Asian as well as Southeast Asian countries, and then Central Asian countries. And then the sea trade, that is called as the road. In that Belt and Road, the belt is the series of trading infrastructure that is going to build, and the sea trade infrastructure is called as road. That is the name why Belt and Road. Initially, till 2013 to 2015, it is called as One Belt One Road Initiative. But since 2015, it was renamed as Belt and Road Initiative, and it was called right till now as so. And a series of ports, bridges, industry corridors, and other infrastructure needed to trading is built across the Belt and Road Initiative. And what is the 5 principles that has been followed in it initially is policy coordination, infra connectivity, trade, financial integration, people to people connection. And the 6th principle is recently included as industrial cooperation. And during 2013, what World Bank has predicted is that the successful implementation of this project requires nearly $575 billion of investment. But right now, various projects that has been implemented under the Belt and Road Initiative cost nearly $1 trillion. So what criticism that India have is, first and foremost, India is one of the first country to suggest the viability of the project, that it might lead to the debt trap of those countries, those who are going to dependent on China for the investment in the Belt and Road Initiative. Secondly, lack of transparency as well as sustainability of the project. Fourthly, the sovereignty issue. For example, in the case of the CPEC, which is passing through Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which is so like in the case and the case of sting of coal concept, that is China is trying to encircle India by building a port or revamping the port that is present in our border countries. In the emergency time, the port could be converted could be turned itself into a military base, which is a serious security threat for India. And then rising Chinese infrastructure and the Chinese trade corridor across sea and also through land will increase the Chinese presence in the Indian Ocean, which will have the geopolitical ramification not only in Indian Ocean but also the global world, because most of the countries trade is passing through the Indian Ocean only, through South China Sea. So what this year, the 10th, in order to celebrate the 10th Belt and Road Initiative, a forum was conducted, but the enthusiasm as well as the number of countries that has participated in the forum got drastically reduced because of the US criticism. If any country is going to go very close with China, means then it is going to be at the cost of US relationship. Secondly, increased apprehension in the European countries is also distancing itself from the China in terms of BRI. Example, Italy, which has raised this transparency and then this sustainability issue in recent times, and it is also in the path of coming out of the Belt and Road Initiative from China. Like in the case of other European countries, is also they are also saying same kind of issues, and they are also in the mode of coming out from this initiative or the agreement. What does this CPEC corridor is about? CPEC corridor, which is built between a trade corridor which is built between China and Pakistan, which passes through the Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which is part and parcel of India. It has created a sovereignty issue with India, and also at the same time it is going to create large energy related project and also road and railway and port related project for the Pakistan. But the Pakistan right now is in the difficult economic phase, and the project may be unviable in the near future, and it may also go fall into the debt trap of the Chinese, built in the China. So this is what this prediction being given by the economist of the CPEC, which is being implemented in Pakistan. Even though India is not a part of Belt and Road Initiative, India is actively participating in China's headquarters Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, where India has a borrowing of nearly 10 billion, which is 20% of Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank's total lending. And India is one of the top market for infrastructure investment bank, which is headquartered in China. So how it impacts the standing of Xi Jinping is, it has leveraged his country's diplomatic as well as geopolitical relationship with global south, because even though there is a concern about lack of transparency and then sustainability and also the increasing alarm of debt trap by the countries like India, most of the global south countries are participating in the Belt and Road Initiative because of the deficient infrastructure they have. So they are all the countries which are part of BRI, most importantly the global south country, wanted to revamp the infrastructure inside the country. That is the reason why they are all part and parcel of the Belt and Road Initiative, even though the alarm has been raised by India as well as the other European and then North American countries. So what need to be studied further is, we should know about what is Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and what is Asian Development Bank, what is the difference between both of them, and then we should also know about what is SEO and what is BRICS, what is the objectives and mandate it holds, what is the structure as well as the function it is doing, and at the same time we should also be aware of India-China bilateral relationship. So these are all the other areas which we need to be aware of. Okay, let's have a look into today's practice prelims question. So mentioned here is the today's practice prelims question. I want those students, those who are watching this session online, please do comment the option point for the question which you are seeing right now on the board. Okay, with this we have reached the end of today's session. Thank you.